Welcome into today's episode of How to Ride a Roller Coaster. I'm David Ezell, and today I'm joined by Brandon Johnson. He's the CEO and co-founder of Very Health, which stands for Virtual Eating Recovery for You. What's going on?
lot, a lot going on now, but happy to be here and excited to hang out and talk more about entrepreneurship and helping some folks at least see a end of one about what I'm experiencing right now, what we're going through, and what we're all about.
Heck yeah. Well, before we dive into kind of the entrepreneurial side of it, let's talk more about Very Health. So, what was kind of the why behind Very Health whenever you guys were first getting that off the ground?
So I think my wife, who is a co-founder, child psychiatrist, child and adolescent psychiatrist, pediatrician, and adult psychiatrist, she's triple boarded. Hers is a little bit different than mine, but my situation was alcohol runs in both sides of the family, but definitely my mom's side of the family. And my brother went in and out of rehab about three times about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And the cycle of him going into rehab and then coming out of rehab and not having therapy in place, not having a support system or anything to go to other than back to his milieu where he was, which was in my mom's house in his bedroom.
Yeah.
He relapsed several times, and there was not a clear way out of that path for him to get help. Like, there's AA, there's a lot of things that you can really pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but there's not a lot of collaborative, comprehensive support for someone like that going out of, and that's in any place, right? That's in substance abuse, alcohol abuse, eating disorder recovery, whatever you look at. So started looking at that industry and try to buy a residential facility or something like that in substance abuse, and kind of rolled into alcohol abuse and kind of rolled into eating disorders because we had a competitive advantage because of my wife's experience. And she was trying to do something different. She's worked the highest levels of care in eating disorders for about 4+ years. She still works in is credentialed at Denver Health for the acute unit, which is the most difficult patients and sick, like close to dying in the country. So she's still credentialed there, still doing that work, was a sole psychiatrist doing two people's job during COVID. So really felt the burnout. And I think I'll wrap up the answer by saying that burnout from her, like wanting to do something different. So helping providers have a different experience, then do more as the demand in COVID just went crazy. And they just really required a lot, and it required a lot from everybody, right?
Sure.
Collectively, but definitely healthcare providers, health therapists in general. So trying to build something different for those, something that was virtual first and something that was more not just treatment, but a recovery support community that people could launch right into for low or no cost. And that's where we're at right now, launching all that this week. That's why I say we're really busy, trying to figure out how the community works with the treatment, and those are different businesses and how it all works together and fits. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's where we are doing a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of fun, and just blessed to have the opportunity to do what I love to do, which is stuff like this.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And so whenever you guys kind of kicked that off, like you said, a year, 2 years ago, right in the middle of COVID, when everything was, so in flux. Do you remember that moment when you and your wife were like, look, this is an opportunity? And do you remember that conversation and then what happened after? Because I always like to go right into that moment that
Yeah,
it happened because it's such a change, everything shifts right there.
you could say that. Yeah, like you could say there was definitely a moment where I was like, Aaron, sweetheart, I am doing this. You can go do something else if you'd like to. There's other opportunities for you. You're a psychiatrist. You have an eating disorder specialist. You can do whatever you want. Like you can make tons of money. You can go to the academic facility and do research. You can do whatever you want, but this is what I'm going to do. And, once she said yes, it's been like, and then she left the job and then she really started this. It's just been awesome. I mean, it's been difficult. Obviously, there's not a lot of people that work with their spouse and whatnot, but she's so focused on medicine and I'm so focused on business
Yeah.
that when we do overlap, it's still on the founder level, which is great to make sure you're on the same page as your founder, as your partner,
Sure.
and that's super important. And we're also husband and wife, so that's super important. So being on the same page is the root of what our relationship has to be. So we're working to improve on that, but she said, yeah, she took a beat and she said, yeah, I want to do this. And, dealing with her job, it was super hard for her to get started. But once she left in June, so I started in January of 2022. She left in end of May I gave her about a month in June just to like unplug
Right.
from the difficult. I mean, she's treating the sickest eating disorder patients in the country that are being referred to the highest levels of care
Wow.
for 4+ years. But and then she hit the ground running. I'm so proud of her in so many different levels because, like you said, she wasn't that vertical of being the doctor, but she stretches herself so much in so many different capacities, doing business, doing outreach, doing these different things that, it's been hard for her to like. It's easy. No, it's not easy. Excuse me. It's being an attorney is hard. Being an expert in your field can be hard, right? It can be very difficult. But like moving out of that and going to different verticals is like outside of your expertise, outside of your comfort zone. I'm just so proud of her for how hard she's worked to be a great co-founder too.
Yeah, and just the immense growth that happens, for both you and her, taking that on, wrapping your minds around, like you said, just how to kind of get out of your everyday strength and comfort zone and starting to wrap yourself into the financial side, the client side, the customer service side, all those different sides. And for anybody that's watching on YouTube,
the leadership side.
Yeah, for sure. And I was saying, anybody watching on YouTube can see the board behind you that just has so many thoughts and ideas and everything on it. So let's kind of talk there. When you guys were building this and starting, what were some of those policies and procedures that you started to kind of put in place that started to kind of become that baseline that you could really work off of?
So many ways I could start this answer. Like my team will like joke. I'd be like, "Oh, we're here for processes and policies. My favorite meeting of the week, family. Let's go." And they all know how I feel about taking time out to do policies and processes. And the bottom line is you have to mean it. So we started with Traction, which I pulled this book up to chat about it a little bit. If you're a solopreneur, you should maybe read through it to get your own KPIs and some different systems and some different thinking. It's a very good systems thinking book, which is very important to scaling a business. So we have to have policies for our health insurance, for our malpractice insurance. Certain things are required. So obviously implementing those and going through that is important. So we have a weekly meeting for that. Make sure those are good. But really, we're developing the processes now to make sure they're fine-tuned for the admissions process, the marketing process, the intake process, the first assessment process, all these different processes. Right now, I could probably list off probably 10, no more than 10, probably 8 to 12.
Yeah.
And these are starting to be documented, right? And then somebody owns this process. So now we're starting to kind of do that. Nice. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a vertical, and I'm not doing I'm not answering the phone. I'm not doing the marketing. I'm not doing everything that I had to do in the beginning. So
right.
I've been able to, over the past few months, kind of pull up and focus more on leadership, which has been crucial. But like, what is a process for leadership? There's a process for everything, right? Our leadership is by Traction. We have a founder advisory board with 14 people on it, marketing, tech, community. All the who else roles? We have a few other operations, obviously Aaron, co-founders, and then a set of founder advisory board members that are experts in eating disorder. And we meet and troubleshoot every single week, same time, same place, same manner, 12:00 p.m. night and Saturday time on Tuesdays. We're meeting solving our biggest problems. We go through a little recap of what we do. Here's our KPIs. Here's how the business is doing. Here's what we're tracking. We go right into the problem solving, and it's beautiful, man.
That's awesome.
It is a beautiful thing if you set up the processes and you have a team to work together to solve problems. Then it's not me feeling like I have to work on everything. And when you have them solving problems, then they're going to be bought into doing the work outside of these board meetings.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be their ideas that they're implementing, which are way better than my ideas. And that's how I've seen companies in the past get stuck. I become the sticking point. And that's that leadership, right? That management to leadership of that I cannot be the sticking point. I have to remove myself from every single role. I have to set up processes. I have to trust but verify. I have to check in with these people, make sure they're getting what they need. And then my ultimate, if I have a superpower, it's problem solving. It's just running through the wall that's in front of me. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Two little girls. Gotta go through it. That's me. So that's what I can help people do is when they feel like they're stuck, they have a problem, I can help them bust right through that problem, give them some resources, figure things out, and troubleshoot. So that's what I'm trying to do. And you ask about processes, policies. Well, the process is Traction for us. implementing it from top to bottom. We had no business doing it in the early stages, but we did it anyway. And now it's paying dividends, right? Like we're
Right.
catching traction. We're hitting this month alone. We're launching insurance outreach. We're launching clinical data collection, and we're launching our recovery community. Without traction and having everything on the same page, we would not be able to do all these things at one time.
Yeah. And I will make sure that Traction is linked in this show so that other people can find that book, check it out, and read all of the things that it has in it. And I think you're right on. You know, I've just in talking with entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs with maybe a partner or two who are growing, you know, they're trying to kind of do a little bit of everything, wear all the hats all the time. That's one thing that just kind of seems to be a constant is this is our baby. This piece is my baby. And it's hard to kind of let go. It's hard to kind of put in those processes and then let somebody else say, great, that's the part that I'm going to handle. I'm going to run with it. And being able to really offload that, you know, and like you said, really give them the leeway and the clarity to go with it. I think a lot of times that tends to be the hindrance. You know, entrepreneurs and founders kind of spread themselves really thin because they want to be included in everything. And sometimes I feel like that might be a visibility thing, a communication thing, or maybe a combination of the two. But I love kind of how you mentioned that.
A control anxiety.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just I want to insert a control anxiety thing too.
Yeah.
Like, because it is so stressful. This is so hard. It is so worth it. But it is anxiety provoking. It is hard. You're looking at so many different things. So to have a system to control without having the control is the thing. That's the goal, folks.
Yeah.
This is what we're going for, right? So to have a system that if I'm the best lawyer for this company, there's no doubt in my mind, I couldn't pay somebody $1,200 in New York City or whatever the rate is right now to be better at this than me because this is what I do. I know every ins and out, but I can't be the best marketing person. I can't be the best. So your job as an entrepreneur is to figure out like who's the visionary, who's getting the ideas, who's integrating, who's making those ideas happen. Sometimes it's both. For me, it was both for a long time. Now it's our board as the visionary. Like we're running all the ideas past the board, having them help. Then I'm implementing, executing everything. And then I have people that instead of me filling all these seats that I've identified, I'm taking this hat off, I'm putting on the table, and I'm looking and finding people.
Wow.
And once you're doing the things and making the forward progress, people will fall into the line that, oh my God, there's not a lot of people that can be better at me than this because I care so much, but there is a 10X person out there. Once you find them and once you put them in that seat, and once you see your KPIs double up week over week because you have a new website and a new marketing plan, your conversion rates start to get higher, your email list start to grow, and you're like, oh man, that is a home run. Like I play baseball,
yeah,
or use a baseball analogy. That is like hit the sweet spot, you hit the home run. You're like, I don't know how far that went, but I couldn't have hit it any farther, any better.
Yeah.
Or golf, or like when you rip a double block, or rip a ski run, or make a tackle. I mean, I'm more of a physical sports guy.
Yeah.
So. Just something that feels really sweet, really pure. Not trying to injure somebody, not trying to, but just really sweet, pure play and pure hit is when you, and then the numbers, but the only thing is it's so much better.
Yeah.
Because then the whole team plays better. It's more like acquiring, like it's more like a general manager of acquiring somebody to play right field. And when you find that 10X player that can come in and play the role that you need them to play, it's magic.
Yeah. That's fabulous.
The thing unicorns are made of, I'll say.
That's it. Yeah. And so I know that a lot of your background, being a startup attorney, that really has played a role in all of this. So you already mentioned like what some of those skills are that you bring to this and just the way that you think when it comes to how to put those in and how to grow this business. But what else do you think being a startup attorney has brought when it comes to the success that you guys have had so far?
Let me just take 1 second to because there's a multiple layers of the answer. I want to make sure I get and just touch on a couple different things.
You got it.
I mean, the first thing is the documentation, straight up.
Okay.
Straight up, being an attorney, documentation is huge. But how that documentation goes into the execution of like not only docking it, but then executing on the documents. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference between just documenting it and then you have to give it to your team and they have to execute on it, right? Well, I'm doing both of those things, which I think has been really great. My experience working with so many founders, working with like, our tech director of technology. I worked with him at a Y Combinator startup. So just have like, that's one experience. I've represented billion-dollar brands. Like that's one experience of how to build a brand, how to protect the brand, how to think about a brand. There's just the experiences I've had, and that my interest levels are so steep in entrepreneurship and business that like I read all the books. Like I have an MBA without having an MBA. I would never go get my MBA. No disrespect to anybody that did, but I wanted to get a law degree so I have a competitive advantage in intellectual property.
Interesting.
So I can help people with solve their problems. That I thought was a different angle than having an MBA, because it was just a different angle. It was just at that time I was a poor boy that wanted to be a business person, and I thought, and instead of being like most people who wanted to do business, I would be different. But I'm still most people that want to do business, right? I still read all the books. I have HBRs like right here beside me. I'm reading them. And so that experience and just the passion.
Yeah.
Just a straight up passion to help entrepreneurs. That's why I don't charge them $2,500. That's why I charge them $250 for an independent contractor agreement. I know what these minimum things that you need to have to limit your liability. And instead of charging those big law firm rates, I'm here to help you. And then when you do get a deal, when you do get a raise, and you do need terms and conditions for your new community, whatever, I'm here for all that. I'm here for all that. I'm passionate. I have a lot of heart for it.
And I think that is a great separator, because a lot of times entrepreneurs think that getting into starting their own thing and growing it is going to require all of the things that you naturally bring, and it is hard because there's so many things that if you don't have that kind of background like you have, that entrepreneurs just typically aren't going to have. So I love how your experience kind of brings that different path to it. And so what are some of the other things? Maybe it's raising capital, any of those types of things, because that's also a question that I get asked quite a bit is, how do I know when to raise capital? Should I raise capital? It feels like everybody is kind of on the pitch tour. They're putting together a deck so that they can go raise some money, because it feels like that's kind of what every entrepreneur thinks that they should be doing. Or maybe it's a vanity type thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're building this thing. It's going to be great. Here's my 17-page slide deck. We're doing the rounds. We're trying to go raise some money. Just, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
So I'm going to start with the raising capital, and then I'm going to circle back to using standard deal documentation. Like even as an attorney, I'll use like the FAST, Founder Advisor Standard Template, and some things like that. Pre-series round for fundraising, like some things that make your fundraising a little. Safe notes obviously are huge. People are moving a little bit kind of in between safe notes and convertible notes now. Either one, pretty acceptable, 50-50 or so. But raising capital in this market right now is super difficult for many reasons. First being overall activity is down. If you look at PitchBook, you look at the big players, you look at the spaces, just activity is down from 10, 12 deals to 1 to 2 deals a quarter in certain niche markets within healthcare, for example.
Wow.
And healthcare is a pretty good business right now. Fintech is getting crushed as far as not very many deals, because a lot of people are sitting on all this dry powder. There's money to be deployed into businesses, but this whole conceptualization of pre-series requires no revenue. Even a seed requires little revenue or just a little bit before you can get to Series A, which is how you're going to scale. And I was joking with a buddy of mine who's raising, who's got an exceptional company, and he's an exceptionally smart dude. I've worked with him since the beginning, and I'm a shareholder, thank God. But just about how difficult it is, and the people that are in the markets, especially in the Midwest. I don't know how Texas is. It's just they want revenue.
Yeah.
And they want to be called themselves pre-series or seed. And it's like, so my experience has been this. I had this great idea when Erin and I first met. I'm building a tech company. She's going to take services, and my buddy's going to set up the operations component, and we're just going to roll through it, right? And my buddy falls off. He doesn't really do the job. He gets another job. He's focused on that. It's all good, but he can't do the role, so we have to move on. And we get into this thing of now I got to start a services company. So because I have to have revenue, because no one's lending money. The tech idea is just an idea. You can't raise money early last year on an idea.
Sure.
A year ago or 2 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago.
Pre-COVID,
so the market has just changed in such a way that you really have to focus had to focus on, pre-COVID and even post-COVID, that big boom right there, for 2 years. But then it really, I think the beginning of 22 started, I think, going down a little bit, but still a lot of activity in 22 closing down. And in 2023, it's really dried up. But my experience has been you have to have revenue. So like anybody that's looking for pitch decks and things like that, I would focus on how you're generating revenue. Now, if you're a big SaaS, you have a lot of people and that you can't convert. You can show that you have a moat and you have people that are ready to buy from you. Potentially you can raise if you can show scalability. But some of the venture-backed companies that I've worked with, it hasn't worked out, has a hard time of raising additional funds because the business fundamentals aren't there. So just start working on your business fundamentals. Set forth your KPIs, set forth how you're going to make money, and try to show a clear path of how you're going to do that. That's the best way to try to raise money in this market, and it's still going to be tough.
Yeah. What would you say are like the top pros and cons to going that route of trying to raise some capital? I mean, are they clearly defined, or does it just kind of, case by case?
It's so individualized, just like healthcare. We say it all the time. It's a case by case startup. But I can give general parameters, right? Like if you're super early stage, pre-rev, pre-anything, your idea stage, look at accelerators, look at potential angels that have been in your area and have exited. I don't think you have to find $1 billion angel. I think $50 million angels are exceptional. They're sprinkling out money and especially if you're local economy or something like that. But the billionaires sprinkle out money too. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
But that angel is what I would look at more than institutional or accelerator if you're super early stage. For me, we got so far that these early stage accelerators are no longer like they take such a big chunk and they provide the stuff that we already had.
Yeah.
The systems, the processes, the teams, the team building, the things that we had already been working on for a year plus. We just needed to finalize and execute launching the MVP and getting in with insurance. And I think now our scalability is going to go way up. But we had to build the foundation, and that was tough. We had 200,000 from friends and family, and we put in some of our personal money, and we're working for free for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think angels is the way to go. If you can have a venture capital conversation, you can be appealing to venture capital. Have that conversation if you need money, if you're trying to have a big tech play. But a lot of the single or solo people need to focus on how to make money, how to leave their job, and then how to replace their salary and then make more. Justin Welsh, all these other folks will kind of talk about how to do that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing something different, but I help a lot of people do that as well. I'm trying to build a business which requires a lot more structure, and it might require raising capital, but we've just been blessed to circle back finally back to like how being a lawyer in my experience, like there's what's called founder advisory standard templates. These are great docs to get people to come in and work for free or for equity. It's not free now. When the beginning it was free because their value of the company was worth nothing. Now it's very valuable, but you get people to work for free, but they believe in your company. And that's if you can string together that, a vision and a mission that brings people to want to be a part of it and be part of ownership and believe, that's where you can find magic in a bottle again. That's what we found with the founder advisory board. And that's all through using standard documentation or bringing people in, work a few hours a week at a low thing that makes sense based upon where you are. And it's a sliding factor. And it's not something I created, somebody else created it. And then if you do raise, trying to use a safe or some type of like seriesc.com has where my docs are from.
Yeah.
Or there's even Cooley has kind of taken down the moat. And I'll just say this one more thing, Elon, the moat has been down, right? You can develop the new Facebook, you can develop and have all that beautiful, right? The moat has been down from the tech side, but from the healthcare side, the moat is still alligators and rhinos and hippos and things that'll get you because of the healthcare, state corporate practice of medicine. And just me having an understanding of that, the ability to learn and talk to lawyers and figure that out has been tremendous. And I've had great mentors that have exited for billions or millions that have shared time with me about how to do this thing that I'm trying to do. So that's, shout out to all the mentors out there.
Yeah.
Mentors, huge help. And having the experience to be in business with these folks and then having to be able to have mentorships at my fingertips because they value the relationship and the friendship is just probably one of the greatest things from my experience that I have.
And that brings up another great point. I've also heard people say, yes, you can go kind of like, through an accelerator. You can find different places within your local area where you can find mentors. Score.org has several things like that. But I've also heard that people just say it's hard to find really good mentors. Like you're trying to grow, but you just need those other people that are your sounding boards kind of in your corner. Is there any way, like let's say that you're starting something tomorrow, or if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I have this business, but I don't know who to talk to. I'm just desperately looking for a mentor." Where's the first place that you would point them?
I'm a challenger. I'm an Enneagram challenger. So my first piece would be why.
Hmm.
Why do you need a mentor? Like, so then you can kind of develop and think through the process of like, what do I need a mentor for? Because if you're just like, I need a mentor, well, why? For what? Because I have so many mentors. I have this guy for marketing. I have this guy for biz. I've got this guy for co-founder. I've got this guy for, because not everyone's an expert at everything. And even mentorships can be, you got to kind of use them for what they're meant to be and what is mutually beneficial, which most of the time is keeping someone in their wheelhouse of where their comfortability is.
Yeah.
Um, I would say to look for an accelerator. If you're super early stage and you're just like, I need a mentor, look for an accelerator. If you're beyond the accelerator phase, look at your community, go into the Denver market and go to, startup. So first of all, YouTube is amazing. Y Combinator Startup School is amazing. Michael Seidel and those guys, they're my best friends. They don't know me. These guys that started, they don't know me, but they are my mentors.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a relationship with a mentor to read books. If I do what you can do on your own, identify where you're lacking, and then go out and be in community.
Love that.
Be in community with people and develop those relationships. That's how I developed, and then my community spread my community,
Hmm.
right? So those one people talk to other people who come back and talk to me. That's how I get referrals on business. That's why I don't advertise my law firm. We don't, as we advertise for the eating disorder treatment, but a lot of it's word of mouth, outreach, referral. That's the biggest. We're just doing the basic advertising so we can show a VC firm what our cost of client acquisition is.
Gotcha.
But we're trying to drive that down by having low and no cost acquisitions all the time through the outreach. Well, not exactly low and no cost, but we're paying our people to do this personalized outreach, which is going to pay long-term dividends. So like it feels like I'm paying them nothing because the return is going to be 100x. I'm so certain of it because I know I have a product that people want, people need, um, which is also a good thing to have.
Heck yeah.
It's a very good thing to have. People want and need.
Is there anything that you would tell yourself, or you wish you could tell yourself right now, like from when you started, early 2022? Is there anything that you would tell yourself right now, just, if hindsight was 2020 and you could just wave that magic wand and say, hey, we're going to hold on to this, wait 2 years, you can pull this little thing out anytime you need it. This is something that you're going to wish you knew.
First thing you said when you said that was my core value is love. I'm trying to share love. It's self-sacrificial, agape service. Love is the love. Jesus is the love of that. I try to emulate to other people poorly.
Yeah.
I'm a poor mirror reflection, but that's my goal is to be a better mirror reflection. And I just think seeing every single interaction I have through a win-win, but a loving relationship and like a self-sacrificial relationship. Obviously, I can't. It's also a virtuous relationship. I can't get the shirt off my back. It's not about giving what I don't have, but what I do have, I can try to give. But just trying to be patient, trying to be kind, trying to do these things that are going to be excellent for team building long term, excellent for leadership long term, excellent for seek to understand and then be understood. But a lot of that is all in loving of trying to really understand someone else and where they're coming from before you are understood, because people have to understand me.
For sure.
I am the person that makes the decision at the end of the day. But if I seek to understand where other people are coming from before I try to make a point, because maybe my point will be different. Maybe I'll have a completely different thought because the people that I'm working with now have a lot of better ideas than I have even.
Yeah.
But I just think before I get mad or frustrated or just take a beat. Take a beat and take a loving pause to take a pause before I respond. So I guess the short answer would be make sure before you respond that you think all the way through every email, every text. Just take a beat and be like, what am I trying to really accomplish? That's why I would ask that person why. Why do you want to mentor? Why do you want to make this outreach? Why is this frustrating you? Why are you getting angry? For me, like bills and stuff like that, people will be like, pay me money. And I just don't like to do that. Like, I just don't like to do the finance part of it. It just doesn't bring me joy. Messing up paychecks is just like, oh God, it hurts my heart. Like, it
Right.
just, I just hate doing things like that. So I hired somebody, overpaid somebody to do that. So that way I don't have to worry about it anymore. So, like, lean into the things that are frustrating to you. Take a beat, take a pause, ask why. And I think everything would come a lot easier for me and my team instead of me being like, this is what we're going to do. And
Yeah.
people are like, well, I don't know. That's kind of a stupid idea, Brandon. Have you thought about this, this, and this? I'm like, oh my God, that's right. That's a pretty stupid idea. Now you've had to spend 30 minutes explaining to the CEO why I have a stupid idea, which is fine. It's learning for me. I don't mind to have stupid ideas. Not all my ideas are good. But if I'm just like, what are you guys thinking? Our idea generation is just so much better.
You know, I love how you mentioned that. I actually saw an interview just the other day with, let's see, I believe it was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he was interviewing Rick Rubin, the, legendary music executive and producer. But he was just talking about how his thing is being a recorder. So anytime that he's sitting with someone, it's just all about listening. And he doesn't go into it trying to think of what his next thought or his next question or his next ask is of that person. He just sits back and listens. And he said the job is to listen without thinking about what you're going to say next. Because then you're able to take it all in, you're able to dissect that information, and you're able to act upon that information, as opposed to already thinking that you know what you want to do next, and the conversation that you're having just kind of being the buffer until you can get to that. You take that barrier away, and you just listen. And I know that that seems kind of simplistic, and that's kind of what we were talking about, but for some reason I just love that, because I feel like we're always, this is what I'm trying to do, this is the agenda that I'm trying to push forward. And when we get that feedback, it's either butting up against it, or it's something that's pushing us and saying, yeah, that's the direction we should go. And I just love his whole thing of be a recorder, just sit and listen without thinking about what you're going to say next, take that information and then disseminate later.
It's simplistic in theory and difficult in practice to listen.
Yeah.
It is a skill that is not, but that is where the magic of dialogue, that is where the magic of conversation comes in. And but for this segue into something about Rick Rubin that you saw in Lex Friedman, I would never talk about how important DIAB is to our business. Nor would I have said a year ago that I thought, like, I would have said it was important. But I would have, like, my sister-in-law would have been like, well, what are you doing about it, Brandon? And I'd be like, I don't have time for it. Oh, my God, I'm so busy doing all these things. Because I was. I was really super stressed out. It's a super difficult time to launch a business and do all the roles. But now that I have more bandwidth and more capacity, I'm like, oh, man, I'm a really bad leader. I'm a great executioner, but I'm not a very good leader. I have ways, I got miles to go in leadership. To be able to think about how this all works in conjunction, right? Because for us, belonging in the community is super important. Like, we want people to feel safe, to feel heard. Yeah. Like, literally, the definition of our core values: heart, expert, access, recovery, dedicated to personalized, like your care, personalized care, is heard. We want our providers, like my wife, who's burnt out, to be heard, but what they need: flexibility, time with my kids in the morning, not having to start at a certain time, working from home. We want to our patients. Like, we want to listen to our patients. We don't want to. So much traumatic therapy is done when people jump in line. They're like, "Oh, you lost weight this month? That's great. I wish I could lose weight too." Do you know how harmful that is to someone with an eating disorder? And your first thing is do no harm. We have to listen. Listening is a basis of love, is a basis of everything, and being heard is something I'm super trying to work on. It's incorporated into our DEI practice, because one of the things about listening to other people, you got to have better ideas.
Yeah.
Why do you think better ideas occur? Because people are listening, and in our supercomputer that's better than quantum computing in our brains, we're able to process through things together, and we're listening, and the outcome is something we could have never done individually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fabulous. And Brandon, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I want to make sure that people know how to follow you, know how to follow Very. Like I said, I'm going to make sure to link the book that you mentioned, Traction. I think that was fantastic. Any references where people can find those forms and those documents when building their business, all of that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that it's this cavalcade of information for all these entrepreneurs that are looking for a little bit of clarity and resource. So, again, tell people how they can follow you, follow Very, any resources, Y Combinator, all of that kind of stuff that you would recommend that they start with.
We'll link them at the bottom, and I'll send you a link with everything. But Founder Institute, that's where you can get the Founder Advisory Standard template. You can do the Series C docs, which are the documents for raising around. But I think more importantly for startups and for startup founders looking into Y Combinator Startup School, which is available at ycombinator.com. It's a lot of the stuff that it's live presentations that they've done to Y Combinator School. So you want to save your 6 to 8 points, you know? Of course, if you want to be a Y Combinator company, go and do that thing. You want to get the data, it's available for you. You have mentors there that are billionaires. To follow me, I don't do a lot on socials. Like my wife is like the one that's like putting out more information. You can go to our website, very.health. So www.very.health. If you have anybody with eating disorders, disordered eating, you have questions, you have concerns, referrals, whatever, we have information, we have resources, we have a lot of different tools. So please go there. And at the bottom, you can follow all of our socials there. I actually don't know what the handles are, even because someone else has handled that. And my wife is huge. I need to get her handles. I will get you her handles. We can post them below.
Got it.
But if you want to know anything about anti-diet culture, actual health, Wegovy, these different things that are occurring, like BMI is a joke. Like there's a lot of different things that we base healthcare on that is absolutely a joke. And we're here to retrain people and re-educate not just people with eating disorders, but people with disordered eating, people with body image issues, people that are self-checking, mirror checking all the time. Like there's a different way to live your life that's healthy, that doesn't require it to be about what you look like in the mirror. And that's what I'm all about. My research, my studies, the things that I'm doing on my own on the side just to get better at. You asked for resources. I went above and beyond probably too much, but that's what we're about. That's some of the resources, and I'll get you some of my handles, but it's just me skiing or something like that. It's nothing more than that usually.
No, that's perfect. And like I said, we'll make sure to link all of that in the description below. I want everybody to be able to keep up with you, with Very, with all the things that you guys are doing together, and all the resources that you've had that have been useful thus far. But thank you again so much. This has been amazing, and can't thank you enough for being a guest.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot, David.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video and comment. I love to interact. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the channel.